Hey everybody. So I want to talk about Ryan Donato here a little bit because um, Ryan Donato, since being traded in 4 games with Minnesota, has 6 points. And obviously, if you watched my trade recap video of the trade that sent Donato to Minnesota, I absolutely trashed Ryan Donato in that video. And I mean, I wasn't the only person in Bruins country who felt that way about Donato. We had all gotten pretty sick of him pretty quickly just with how he played this year. But obviously I trashed Donato in that video, and now he goes to Minnesota, and he's got 6 points in 4 games and an overtime winning goal, and people are like, all over me and what I said about Donato. And I just want to say, hold up here. It's been 4 games. 4 games. Let's not anoint Ryan Donato as this great player after 4 games, because that's exactly what we did last year here in Boston. So when you look at Donato, he's got 6 points in 4 games, 1 goal, 5 assists. He's +3. He's had a good start in Minnesota. But let's hold on a second here, because this is almost exactly what he did last season when he came to Boston. After the Olympics, after Harvard's season ended, he comes to Boston at the end of last year. And he has 5 goals and four assists for 9 points in 12 games, and he's +2. And believe me, when he scored 5 goals in 12 games, we, as a rookie, as a kid only playing 12 NHL games, we were starting to, we went nuts here in Boston. We were really, really, really high on this kid, including myself. The same guy who trashed him last week was extremely high on him after last season. We thought this was a kid who was going to be a top 6, 30 goal scoring, super, maybe not superstar, but star player. And then this year happened. And then this year in Boston, 34 games played, he only had 6 goals and 3 assists for 9 points in 34 freaking games, and he was -11. So at that point, I did a video saying that Boston should send him to the AHL and let him play in the minors. So he goes down to Providence and plays in the AHL, and I see a few games there, and that's when I started to absolutely hate this kid. Not personally, but as a player, I hated this kid because he wasn't good down there. He was lazy. He wouldn't work along the wall. He didn't like to go to the net. He was a puck hog. Back checking? What's back checking? He doesn't even know what that is, or that's the way he played down in Providence. He wanted nothing to do with the defensive zone. Every time he got the puck on his stick, he'd just shoot it. That's all he'd do. He'd never pass. He was abysmal. He was absolutely awful to watch. And really, he played like he had no clue what to do other than just shoot the puck. Get the puck and shoot it. That's it. That's what Ryan Donato did. So that's when I really started to absolutely despise this kid as a player, because he was terrible for the Bruins this year. He goes to the AHL and he's also not good. And I didn't even look up his AHL stats. Maybe his stats were good, but stats don't tell the story. I can tell you from watching him play, if I were a scout, I would want nothing to do with this guy. So, and I feel like that's probably the way Boston looked at it and why they got rid of him, why he was the one that they were like, okay, good, you can get him in this deal. He's gone. They kept Heinen. They kept Bjork, who I don't think they should have. He's already been a disaster for the Bruins. But they kept all their other younger assets, their young players, and they chose Donato to be the guy that they would ship out. And I completely agree with them on that. But people are already, anointing him as this great player after 4 games in Minnesota, when he did the same thing in 12 games with Boston last year. This year is not the test for Ryan Donato. Next year is the test for Ryan Donato, because I wouldn't be surprised, even though I don't like him as a player, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a great rest of the season for Minnesota and maybe even helps them out in the playoffs, assuming that Minnesota makes it. If Minnesota makes it, and he might have a good playoff for them. This year is not the test for Ryan Donato. Because he's in almost the exact same situation. At the end, he came into Boston at the end of last year, was on a new team, and he played really, really well. So now this year, he comes into Minnesota, he's on a new team, and he's playing really, really well. What happened in Boston is the next season, he was terrible, absolutely abysmal. We need to see what he does next season for Minnesota. Because one of two things are going to happen. Either Ryan Donato learned his lesson from this debacle in Boston, and he ends up having a good season next year, and maybe he does become a consistent 20-goal scorer. Maybe he does become a 30-goal scorer. Who knows? But he wasn't doing it in Boston. He just wasn't. And the way he was playing was terrible. And I would honestly be quite surprised if he does do that. What I think is much more likely to happen is he comes into Minnesota next year and has a similar issue like he did with Boston this year. And it's unless he drastically changes his effort level, his defensive zone coverage, and his willingness to really just work hard, I don't see him being a successful long-term NHL player. I think part of that could be just because he's young, but I've seen plenty of young players move into the NHL. And even if the offense isn't there right away, the work ethic is. The problem with Donato is that the talent is there, but I don't know if the work ethic is. And, that's something that he's going to have to decide himself. Am I going to put in the work to be an NHL player, or am I going to be wasted talent? We'll have to wait and see. But this year, listen, he's had a great start in Minnesota. This year is not the test. It's not about this year with Ryan Donato because he's getting a chance to restart just like he did in Boston last year, where he got a chance to start his NHL career. And he was very, very good for Boston last season in those last few regular season games. I want to see what he does next year. That's going to be the telling thing about the direction that Ryan Donato's career is going to go. If he does well next year, then maybe I was wrong about him. But I'm not going to say I'm wrong about him after 4 games. I'm just not. It's not a big enough sample size. Because, honestly, what I think is probably going to happen is he struggles next season, probably maybe gets sent to the AHL again, and then we're back and we're thinking, you know what, Boston was probably right to trade him. Maybe they knew what they were doing and they saw the issues that I saw when I watched him play in Providence and made the right decision. Maybe he grows as a player and develops and overcomes those issues. That could happen. But Boston's in win now mode, and they're trying to win the Stanley Cup this year, while they still have Chara and Bergeron and Marchand, and these players are not getting any younger. They also have a good contingent of young players, the next generation coming up. Boston needs to win now, and Ryan Donato was not helping them win now. He was down being lazy in the AHL. He was not helping them win now. So I still 100% agree with the Bruins trading him in that Charlie Coyle deal, and I think Boston has proven over the past month. They just finished the month of February without losing a single game in regulation. Boston doesn't need Ryan Donato. Boston needed players like Charlie Coyle and Marcus Johansson to help fill out their current roster right now. So, I think it's way too early to say whether I'm right or wrong on Donato. Next year is going to be the test in my mind. Because he's following a very, very similar path right now that he did when he came to Boston. Great first, gets there for this end, the end of the season, plays really, really well, and then in his, the next season he stinks. So now he gets to Minnesota. He gets to play there at the end of the season. He's playing really, really well. He might play really, really well the whole rest of this season. Next year's the test. Is he good again next year? If he is, then maybe I'm wrong about him and he's overcome the hump, or he does what he did this year and really struggles. So we're going to have to wait and see. The jury is still out on Ryan Donato. I think, you know, there's some issues there with him being an NHL level player, or at least a high level NHL player. But again, the jury is still out. We have to wait and see on that. So that's pretty much what I got on Donato so far. We'll have to wait and see how his career plays out. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. Don't check out offthewallhockey.com. I got to get that out of my end of the video, memorized thing there. So those social media links are down in the description, along with Patreon and merchandise store links if you'd like to further support the channel. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.